Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Rock and Larry Locken with Conscious Conversations with Carolyn and Larry. We're joined every Thursday here at this blessed time at 9 a.m. on the Pacific Coast and 11 a.m. where my tag team partner down in Texas is at right now, Carolyn Lanier Roberts. We're going to talk today about the future of primary school, not only just in the United States, but on the planet in general. Some things we need to consider moving forward, the way we handle our students, the way we handle teachers, the way we treat teachers. Being one herself in another role in her life, Carolyn Lanier Roberts is a teacher, and we just felt like this is an important subject to touch on because we're going to be forced to change this kicking and screaming one way or another, don't you think, Carolyn? I mean, these younger kids now really, they don't really vibe with the old way of doing things, and having them go to school 55 hours a day is not really going to be the answer going forward. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'll get
No,
into that. But yeah,
it's not sustainable and it's not going to go forward. It just won't. There's so many barriers and they're not even barriers. They're shifts to a new and higher way of seeing things because we weren't able to see these choices before, but now they are actually open, but they're opening more and more to the collective. And yeah, we're gonna rock and roll, and we're going to bring this stuff forward and present what we both feel will serve, and then pick through it and
mhm.
discern and decide what fits.
Absolutely. Before we get into really too far into it, I pulled up some notes that I took last night as far as how long these kids go to school, depending on where they're at on the planet. For instance, the United States, the average school kid is in school around 6 to 7 hours a day. Um, yeah, typically getting about 900 to 1,200 hours of school annually, whereas compared to Asia, countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Taiwan, they have the longest school days globally. They're at like 9.5 hours a day. Yeah, no, India is like 7 to 8. Japan, it looks like Japan's is about 8. Yeah, okay, Japan's is 8. China 9. China's at 9. Wow. Yeah, but still, it's way too much. I mean, it's way too much, and I just get the impression that it was set up that way over the years, so parents would have a babysitter. So it was just kind of, parents were 9 to 5 back in the day, typically in yesteryear. So that was kind of the stuff behind it, get kids prepared maybe for work life afterwards, so they can get in the system and become part of the machine, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think most people, especially in the spiritual community, see the children in school for so many hours as it's preparation for the workday, and some people will say, that's a positive thing, but yeah, it's a. I always feel like it's a control mechanism. It's a way. It's a conditioning to programming. And thank goodness there are so many more options available today than there were years ago to school and how to approach school. Um, you know, though the public school still got some work to do, but yeah, definitely the day needs to be shortened. It's too long. Yeah, Larry.
Well, especially for today's kid, especially because they think of things a lot quicker. Plus, because
Yeah,
of technology, the attention spans it isn't as long as it would have been in past. But it's really not even so much that; it's just that they're more in tune, they're more intelligent, they pick up things quicker, and they get bored easier. And there's no reason that there. It's just counterproductive. And then some people want to get into the moral aspect of it. Well, it teaches them good discipline to be there all day long. Yeah, but really, it doesn't really though, and it's not really necessary as we go forward. 4 hours a day of maybe solid education is great, and
yeah,
then activities afterward. More of a kind of an alternative school type of situation where kids can go
right.
somewhere like a center Right, you know what I'm saying? The problem I have with these school vouchers, they talk about what I don't like getting in there is I understand that a lot of people will be sold on it because they're like, well, it gives kids the opportunity that are economically disadvantaged the chance to go to some of these schools. Yeah, but these schools don't have as much oversight as a public school does, and it's up to them with whatever religious dogma that they want to teach, or so there's going to be that issue that comes up too, right? I mean, of course, it should come down to a choice, but I would rather see if we're gonna I'd rather see the funding go more towards a public education type of a system than have it overhauled into letting just any kind of religion they want have their own school and getting subsidized for it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
these are
mean,
things, whether we figure it out or not, the next generation will. I really feel like that within the next two
right.
generations. Yeah.
The to me mm, the best choice, the highest choice would be for the whole public school system to be changed. You
Yep.
know, I'm going to qualify my experience. I I don't know. I'm not an expert. I can just say that I do have knowledge of this. I've been a substitute teacher part time for the last 2 years. I've worked with private families with special needs, and in one of those families, I was in the school sometimes with the student. Um, I kind of interacted there, and I've been in the school system off and on with the special needs stuff. Um, and then I was brought up in the public school system. I have soul family that are homeschooling or that were homeschooling, and um, I've kind of got this really general view too, because as I've subbed, I've been in not public schools. I haven't been in public schools since I was young, but I've been in charter schools. I've been in private schools.
Right.
I've seen how they're trying to come at the system, and I've said it to you before, Larry. They're trying to create a new wheel, but they're just recreating the same wheel with this with they got the same spokes on the wheel for a lot of them, and they've just kind of added more spokes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
you
let's
know,
fix what we have. I mean, I'm for modernizing it completely, but I mean, let's not segregate it off into a whole bunch of other shit. So, because the problem I really have with it is that it's a religious based type of agenda that wants to preach their mythology, their mythology, exactly, but their way of thinking. I mean, they want the Ten Commandments in the schools, but you notice every time I ask one of these people if they'd be okay with having passages from the Quran in there too, no, they do. They don't really want to go for that. So it's the agenda behind it. I'm not necessarily against kids having all kinds of alternatives to go to school at all. But I mean, we need to be logical about it. And is it a fact that these people want their kid to be raised by God or raised in in the Word of God and all that shit? It's like, why don't you let your kid grow up and figure out if he wants to?
the
Whether before you get into that
the
bunch of
other
dog.
element, yeah, I hear you, but the
Yeah.
other element I'm getting as you talk about that, which we haven't discussed, but is the textbooks, the revisionist history that is presented by the textbooks, because they were written from a lower level of consciousness, with all respect to those
By
that write the
white
textbook.
dudes, let's face it. Yeah,
And
most.
and I have seen in some of the schools where the younger ones, there's been a revision of some of the textbooks, and they're not learning the same stuff that we learned. It's there's more expansion, which is really wonderful to see. You're not seeing, watch Billy run Billy run. There's definitely more expansion. There's definitely more compassion. There's more diversity, which is really beautiful. Um, the other thing I'm going to say is that I love the choices of education that are now present now.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like when I'm talking about that they're on the same wheel, they're just adding more spokes to the same damn wheel. That's the length of the school day, as you were saying in the beginning. It's too long. It's too long. And yes, people created it. It was created for the families, the parents to go to work. I got that. You and I talked about this yesterday, and what I was getting was that maybe the kids, they go to school, whichever school, private, charter, public, um
Mm-hmm.
and they have like a buffer time, which homeroom, right, for
Yes.
15, 20 minutes while they're transitioning to the space where they're going to need to be focusing for a couple hours. They're, I like the idea that they would be focused for about 4 solid hours. They would have a break, maybe 15 minutes or whatever in between. And of course the time to transition. And then, and that would be actual hardcore teaching, where they're going to need to learn what they need to learn. And then at the end of that, there would be lunch. And then the transition would be to, like you mentioned earlier, like an activity type center. And as I was telling you yesterday, I kept seeing this activity type center. And I know this exists, but I saw like
Hmm.
details to it. Like the kid, the older kids could work out, they could do exercises, they could,
Yeah.
there'd be life skills classes they could take at their choice. And the main thing I kept getting within me is that the teaching in the afternoon would not be this strict structured stuff in the morning, because the point of the afternoon that I receive is this is where they could be free. This is where they can express themselves. Yes, there has to be an extent of structure because they are children, but
Hmm.
this is where they could take the energy from the empowered teachers that they have connected with in the morning and felt that energy, and then that energy of the empowerment and the inspiration from those teachers comes into the children and inspires them to want to explore themselves, discipline themselves, and to learn things, what they want to ask themselves, what do they want to learn. And that those options would either be, I'm getting, they'd be offered at the center, or there would be networking maybe with the community where different groups would come, and talk to the children. The afternoon I saw classes like horticulture, some of these other
Yeah.
classes that aren't the hardcore things. But the other thing I got too was that the younger ones, the pre-K and the K that need manipulatives, and they their skill level is all that it's still developing, that their afternoon would be like their morning, except there would be more maybe physical space,
Okay.
and maybe more interaction with the older ones with
M-
supervision, so that there is there's,
Mentorship kind of going on there. Yeah.
there's, there's a community formed.
Right.
Right, there would still need to be
Yep.
supervision obviously, but the whole point of it is the freedom, is that they get to experience real freedom. And I'm being reminded of this thing I've told you before. When I go in and I substitute teach, I have the layers that I work through. I have the rules of the company that I sub through. I have the rules of the school. I have the rules of the teacher I'm subbing for. And so my goal has always been, in between those rules, some of which are so flippin' strict,
Yeah.
I
Really.
find the freedom I'm hearing within me. I find the light. I find the light that I can offer the children, the students, to explore and to empower themselves. Because to me, rules are necessary and rules are very important. Yes,
Hmm.
they're a structure, they're a foundation, but there has to be a space in between those rules for free
Right.
exploration, or the child will never learn about themselves. They have to have this freedom, and as they learn about themselves, that's how they can begin to discipline themselves. And to me, ultimately, discipline is something that, yet you're going to get it from these external sources, from the parents and from the teachers. But once the child begins to instill that internal discipline within themselves,
Yeah.
that gives them this strength within themselves. It builds their self-esteem, and then the free choice to choose what they would want in the afternoon. And then it would feed back into the morning stuff, the classes in the
Yeah.
morning, um, because they would be more willing to be there, not necessarily as the reinforcement of the activities in the afternoon, but because
Hmm.
it's like I'm getting something like experimenting on their ability to discipline themselves in the morning, um,
Right.
which is really powerful. Because to
Oh,
me, once they connect with that discipline within themselves in the system of the school, it helps them, it supports them in the external, where there isn't really any discipline, right? There's community that expects children to act a certain way,
Yeah.
but that isn't always solid or consistent, and
No.
it definitely depends on the actual community the child lives in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
Larry.
absolutely. A few things. One thing is school meals. I think we should be providing the kids with 3 meals a day. Actually, two for sure. A third one, if they're willing to participate after school, like if they're there after school, they're getting a third meal. You know what I mean? The two
Yeah.
should be a
Oh yeah.
guarantee. They're going to be, and it doesn't have to be an athletic sport. I mean, anything they're involved in, they could go and do whatever. You know what I mean? As long as they're there, then they're entitled to that, right? It's funny, the
Right.
people that don't want a lot of these people that vote against, they don't want their tax dollars going to school lunches and Head Start programs and shit, but they're the same people that are against contraception, people out of divorce. I don't get it. They care about the child till it's out of the womb, and then they don't. But that's another topic. The thing too with the teachers, they've got to be paid, man. They've got to be paid. They can go to school now for that amount of time and go do other things. They can just go do other
Right.
things, make twice that amount of money,
Yes.
but yet not be fucked with as much. And I don't understand that why. I mean, for as much for as much thinking as we've always wanted these kids to do, we sure as hell have never really done a lot with the way we structure our school system. Oh, let's just have it between this hour and that hour and this class. I mean, what a lazy fucking way of doing shit. And yet we want these kids to learn, but what a stupid, lazy, and the way we even have a classroom set up with everybody facing forward towards the fucking board, how boring. Why not have a circular type of a situation if you're going to have, situations like that? A
Very cool.
circular, I mean, I know it sounds tacky, but it's no more tackier
No,
than people
it's
sitting in
awesome.
straight fucking rows, man. I mean, for as much
Yeah.
learning as we want them to do, give me a fucking break. What a mindless dribble of a job to
It's
not the teachers, but the people above them.
the thing that one of the things that sticks out to me, and I asked this to one of my friends that is a public school teacher and has been for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And I told you about this when I go substitute teaching. I love the children, but I tell my fiance this, and I've told you this. Hey, I got to go jump on the merry-go-round, and that's because of the way. I don't know about others. This is just me. You know, the classes, and I know I've said it in other podcasts, but this has to change. You get there and you got 20 minutes here and 45 minutes here, and then the next class is
Mhm.
an hour and a half, and then you go back to 45 minutes, and
Yeah,
and to me,
bullshit.
I see within myself, I always see this like a rat in a maze, and
Yeah.
there has to be, to me, um,
Some
well,
flexibility, man. We might as well not even think as a human species if we're going to continue
yeah,
down that road. I don't know how we've made it so far, but
it,
what a thoughtless, mindless fucking bunch of
it's
dribble.
a I see in my third eye, I see a rat in a maze, and you're standing and you're
Yeah.
looking above, and you're looking at this rat, which is the teacher, with all respect to the teachers and frankly
Yeah.
the students who are in this maze, and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to be in this class, and the teacher, even with their beautiful clear intent, they've got this curriculum that they have to teach these
They
students, and they've
have
got
to.
this
Yeah,
amount
they
of
don't have to
time.
say it. These dipshits above them do.
It's like it's oh yeah, they've got to open up. It's 8 hours, or so. It's 7 hours. It's too long. It's one. It's just one. It's too long. And the next thing is, um,
Yeah, and this getting to class on time bullshit. I understand in a way, but you know what? A fucking couple minutes late. Don't be a fucking punk ass as an administrator. Oh, you're late.
well,
I
they
mean,
get
so what?
paid, right?
They're fucking 5 minutes late. So what? If they're 10, okay, I could see if it's every day, but give
So
me a
Larry,
fucking break, dude.
that's how the schools get paid. That's why they
I
take
know,
attendance.
I know. They're on a quota. They have to verify that they have to get state
Yep,
funding. They have to have so many,
that's how they get paid.
and
Yep.
that's what it's all about. It has nothing to really do with the kid. Because the high school I went to didn't take attendance till the year after I left. We had what was called modular scheduling.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's all about that. It's about the structure. They have to have it. So what it becomes, Carolyn, is, and you probably know this all too well, is it becomes more about the structure, or it's
Yes.
more about the whole rigmarole than the actual process of what's going on as far as any kind of learning goes, right? It's
And
all about the optics and not about what the substance is. You know what I mean? And it breeds
yes.
that. I've never understood it personally, but I mean, it's just there's such petty little shit. You know,
I
it's
I'm getting within me because when you talked about the circular stuff, it made me think of like Montessori, and I've never taught in Montessori, but I did research it. And when one of my children was younger, I thought about Montessori. It's expensive, but it's expensive, but the structure is like, yeah. And so, it's the they're circular, they're groups, and this classes, and they're broken off, and you've got the kids in groups, and you got
mm-hmm.
different ages together, and that the older kids are teaching the younger kids.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and it supports community, and it supports leadership, and it supports discipline. And I
And
really
it supports making too much sense.
yeah. They need to the there needs to be a major overhaul of one, the sheer amount of rules. There's too many in the private
What the,
schools. Not all, there are some schools I've been in, there had to be some rules because you're with children, you're
well,
with
sure,
young
there's got to
adults
be a
with,
structure. I mean, I'm not unreasonable for Christ's sake, but I mean,
yeah,
you don't have
but
to beat a dead horse, though.
but what I've seen, this is just my observation, is those ones that work. I mean, the
Uh
children,
huh.
kids and students are going to be students. They're still going to act out. They're still going to do that. But
Sure.
the ones that work, that I've seen work, because they really value their teachers, and they make it
Yep.
known. They got treats in the what do you call it, lounge for the teachers.
Absolutely,
They
they
got
should have that shit.
they're there.
Absolutely.
It's known. It's there. They give the teachers other perks. And I don't know how these other teachers feel about this, but I know public school, they get tenure, not always in the private or charter.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, in all the ways they can, they're making sure the teachers know they are so appreciated. They're not taken for granted, and
I don't like how you were telling me though. I don't like how you were telling me. I
yeah,
think it was you were telling me the tenured teachers though they get a little bit more of a privilege. I don't like that idea though.
I I like the tenure from the fact that they're getting this extra money, they're getting this
Well,
extra support.
that I have no problem with. That I have no problem with. Right.
Yeah, um, the public school system especially is an old system that it has to change.
No.
And
Yeah.
to me, the core part of it, the dismantling I'm hearing, is I don't really know if the system we've got, frankly, can be continued, the public school system as it is. Does it,
Not too many more generations. No, not too many more. No, it can't. I mean, it's just it'll either go peacefully or it'll go a little bit, with some
so
chaos.
so maybe, yeah, because there's already the charter system. They're growing, they're
Oh,
exploding, and
sure.
frankly, homeschooling is growing rapidly, and charter and public schools are growing rapidly. And so maybe what happens is that there are more of those, and the public school has to take heed, because
Well, Dad,
they're
why isn't the public school? Why don't we get to a society where most of it is fucking homeschooled, structured homeschooling, but the self learned, but the rest of it is you go to an activity center. You can go, like if you want to go out for a sports or the chess club or band or whatever, you can go to this center, right? And that's where you get your socialization with other kids. Is for something like that, right? Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to look at it. You know what I mean? I just feel like as a society, eventually that's somewhere we can get, but there'll
oh,
be have
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the thing I love about the schooling that I've learned, well, one, those kids are very intelligent,
yeah,
but the other
usually, yep.
thing is that the parents, can base the curriculum around, a field trip, coming up with
Uh-huh.
when they partner maybe once a week with other homeschool groups, where are they going to go? What's this? Okay. And then they can base their curriculum, grade appropriate around, or maybe even just not even grade appropriate. Maybe it's just appropriate for what they know what their child would want to
Yeah,
learn, and able to learn around where they're going to be, next week, which is really
uh-huh.
ideal. And the public schools, to do that, they could they could shift that, and I'm hearing it's like turning an old wheel, but I'm not sure what the transition is going to be from this crazy stuff that we're doing now in the public schools to the next. But like I'm wondering if the day is chopped, and like the first thing they do is chop the day, then they're going to have to shift the curriculum for that. But they chop the day, like we were talking about in the beginning, to like a half.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and then the first thing they're going to want to try to do is, their greedy mind. They're going to want to try to, slight teachers out of their pay. Teachers are underpaid. They should work half the time and double the goddamn pay. That's not even being exaggeratory. All the years they go to school, for what they do for the. Who cares if they didn't go to school a day with the role that they play, though? It's the role that they play in
the
this,
the
in
thing
their
I'm
kids'
getting,
life is vital. And it just and they go to school long enough to get a goddamn master's degree. A lot of them. You could go out
yes,
and work in corporate
yes,
America. And we think that's such a great thing, but being a teacher is whatever. But the first thing, people are fucking stupid. They want to blame teachers for this and that, but they don't stop and think
and
they
then
have
the weight
zero
they put on the
control.
teachers. Larry, I had an epiphany, because and I'm like, okay, what would that be? So we're talking about taking the day from what it is now, 7 hours a day or
Yeah.
something, 8 or 7 for public schools, to a half day. And the thought popped in my head because I've interacted with these kids.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I remember I told you that when I subbed in one of the classrooms, and they were on laptops, and it made me cringe. But that particular classroom, they were all on laptops for that particular teacher for several classes, which would make me go
Mm-hmm.
stir crazy. And I offered to them that they could take a piece of paper and they could doodle on it if it would help them with the math thing they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They could doodle on the paper. I told them they could use fidget toys if they wanted, because I know as a child I would have needed something like that. I would have gone stir crazy staring at those things. And it kind of hurt when I saw that this particular group of students, which was like fourth grade, fifth grade, it was, and I told you this already. It was like a prisoner being let out of the jail cell. They don't know what to do. They're running around crazy, and those kids didn't know what to
Really?
do. So I offered them many chances to use that paper, to use the fidget toys, to keep them. I told them, I'm like, you can still, because this is the way I know I operate, and others I've seen operate this too, where you're using that fidget toy to help you focus on what's on that screen, right? You got it in their hand and you're playing with it, right? The fidget toy,
Mm-hmm.
original fidget toy, the pen, right? Or the button, or the necklace, and or nowadays I got the official fidget toys. And there were only a few that were able to discipline themselves to play with the fidget toy and focus on the screen, which wasn't,
Really?
yeah, and that's not a crazy thing. That age, they need that energy channeled into something.
Sure.
And yeah, and the rest of them, it was like they kept wanting to get more papers, they kept wanting to get more pens, and I had to warn them several times, and finally I just had to take away the choice, and they were left with the laptops,
What?
and it sucked. And so I was getting just now is for some students, when the day goes down, because this is going to happen either through this podcast, or other going to be people talking about it, but
Mm-hmm.
dramatic change is needed, and it's definitely coming. They take it down from a half day to a full day to a half day. Then these
Yeah.
children that have been caught up in cages, is what I'm hearing, um, will need some kind of transitioning into this activity center. Will need maybe extra discipline,
Yeah.
maybe there'll be some classrooms in the activity center that would be more structured than I like, and for the afternoon, but maybe those students will need it, and they can graduate into the full freedom, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, they're, especially in the public schools, my soul sister I talked to recently, and she's just, yeah, shaking her head. I felt it, and I've already heard her talk about it all the time, because the teachers, they have the responsibility in the public schools of their own stuff for their own students, and then they're in a team with other teachers for that grade, you know, and then they might have the responsibilities of the principal wants to put on them too.
Oh,
And
of course.
it's ridiculous. Just like you're saying, they need to be cherished and valued more, and then they're going to be able to put more energy, more love into their curriculum, and maybe more choice too. That maybe they could be able to pick within reason the textbook that they want. You know, like the choices of textbooks rather than the regurgitated bullshit that a lot of them have in them.
Oh
You
God, no,
know,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Third,
you
third
know,
and fourth generation. Do they still? And I can't believe still in today's day and age, they still have tech. Okay, I guess I'm surprised that it hasn't gone completely to laptops, but we're not that well off of a nation to where that would be the case yet, to where it's just so commonplace that they have a laptop in the classroom, electronic workbook versus
they've
the old
got
thing we had.
the
I mean,
classrooms I've been in,
yeah.
they end up changed. They've got the laptop,
Mm,
and the children can be on the laptop for a period. Once a day or twice a day. Like I was saying, there've been a couple that they've been on the laptop a lot that day, but it also might be that something's up with the teacher. But they alternate between the notebooks and the regular teaching, and then they're on the laptops, which is
okay.
to an extent okay. It's just I know when I was a child, if you put me in front of a laptop, I would need a fidget toy. And if you were a
Carolyn,
teacher that wouldn't allow me to do that fidget toy, then I'd be fidgeting in my seat. I'd be fidgeting in
oh,
my feet.
oh, don't kid yourself, girl. They didn't have laptops when you were a kid. Anyway,
I know.
yeah, but yeah, this is something we should be providing for these children too. These workbooks. I mean, they're getting more and more efficient, cheap to make, as to mass produce them. So they don't have to use third and fourth generation textbooks anymore. That's got shit written in it, scribbled, pages torn out, outdated ways of thinking, outdated ways of teaching. Revisionist history. I mean, what the. Why?
Yes.
Why do you want to lie to these kids? What are you trying to hide, man? And Jesus, I mean, God, I don't, I won't blame you for the rest of your life because your grandfather liked to lynch people. I mean, you know what I mean? As long as you admit it and own it and be good with it. Not
Yeah,
good with it, but no, admit it that he was a fuckwad and that's the price you pay because that's who you are.
it's
Then
it's
move
gonna
on.
it's gonna happen. It's gonna be known, seen, and cleared out. I mean, slowly, this lifetime, next. It's yeah. And I was as you were talking, I was connecting with one of the schools I've been in, one of the school systems, which is really well known here, not public. And
Oh, you
on
want
the
to give an
website,
endorsement?
huh?
You want to give him an endorsement? I'm kidding. I'm
No,
kidding.
I don't. Um, and I connected, on the website they present as a certain way, and so I was like, hey, this will be great. I'm gonna enjoy subbing in this school. And then I get there, whole different story. Burned
Uh-huh.
out, burned out. I was not with the young ones. Maybe it would have been different with the young ones. I was with 11th graders or 10th graders, and I was shocked at the level of complacency, at the level of burnout, at the level of
As
in this.
far as
Yeah.
the
Okay.
staff,
So
what?
okay. The first class. I go into some schools, and we're in the age of cell phones. So when you're in that 11th, I think, God, was 11th grade, maybe younger, maybe 8th grade. Um, you know, this is the age of cell phones, and so some schools are really strict. You walk in the classroom and you immediately put it in a basket, and it gets locked, and that's it. It's up for the period. Some
Right.
schools count on the kids to put the phones up. Some have like a little, the self locker thing. Some are
Uh,
very, very strict, and some are more lax. This school presented as strict, automated a lot of stuff in the beginning. When you came in, you signed in on the computer. It's gated, it's downtown, it seemed a certain way.
okay.
And then I
Hmm.
get to this classroom, and these kids are like, yeah, I can tell that the neighborhoods they're from, with no judgment on the kids, it was just their behavior and um, the way that the school treated them, and they were friendly enough to them. But it's like the classes began,
The
and I
undertone.
I had to teach something, and I had to get their attention. and they didn't want to put the laptop, they didn't want to put these cell phones up. And
Right.
so, I had to figure out the discipline that that teacher uses and that the school uses. And so I mentioned that. And third time, which was getting an admin to come in, and they're in the hallway enforcing that these students go into the classroom, in between classes. And I got this lackadaisical ass attitude from this admin. I don't know what she was, school monitor, but she was an adult professional. And she just kind of was like, she's like, you're not going to be able to enforce it. They're not going to put it up. Just deal with it as best you can. And I was just like, really?
Like what?
I was like, and that's the one.
Well, I
Okay.
mean,
And that's the class. That's the class that I
yeah.
remember to quote from my love, who, he has dealt with addiction, with alcoholism, and higher drugs. And for many
Instead of
years,
higher learning.
higher drugs. You know what I'm saying, Liz? And he's been about clean for what, 10 years, maybe longer. And I think it's Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Another,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, what
remember
about him?
that
I used to
quote?
listen to him.
You remember that quote? There was a quote I wrote on the board because it popped in my head, and I thought, you know what?
He's
These
got
kids are
many
old
of them.
enough. I'm going to put this quote, and I put the quote. I didn't know exactly, but I felt like, yeah, I needed to pierce their fucking bubbles, because there was a bunch of them on cell phones, and I'd already asked them, and I'm like, fuck this shit. So I put it
Yeah,
up on the board, and I wanted to, like, pierce their bubble. And so I put up there something about, the quote, which is something like, whatever you put your most attention on is your God. And then I wrote below it, is your cell phone your God? I'm like, do you exist without your cell phone?
yeah.
And I wrote it on the board.
I
It
would
didn't
have
reach
thought that
all.
was a smart ass teacher.
Huh? What was that?
I would have thought, God, what a teacher. I mean, I would have been irritated as a kid if I saw that, because it would have got to me, like what you were trying to do. You would have got the desired effect that
I
you
would
were.
have, and then I sat in front of the class and just kind of pointed to that. And I had a couple that were really shocked, because I was flat out asking them, I'm like, do you exist without your cell phone? Do you
Yeah.
have a reality and identity without that? Because what I felt in my gut was that some students, and I could be blunt about adults too, don't really have an identity outside of the box, right? And
No,
I
no,
wanted to hold
you
up
don't.
this striking mirror for them, because I spoke to them about it, and I'm like, so you guys are this age, and I can't remember what it was. I think they were 12 or 13. And I'm like, you guys are young enough to make changes for you. And I'm like, I'm not saying put your cell phone up all the time. Most definitely, it's your personal property. You use it when you want. But you need to understand that you're the only one hurting yourselves when you're not paying attention in class. Because this
Hmm.
is information, as you learn it, you're going to empower you. Not about the school, not about me, not about any of it. It's for you. So you take this information and use it to empower you. You can use it in between class, to me. You can use it with your friends, whatever, but you need to be very much more discerning about when to use it, because the one that's losing out is you. And so I just kind of spoke to them, I got the attention of several of them, and they were like, yeah, okay, but I
Yeah,
felt clearly that their lackadaisicalness, that their whatever that word is, I'm not coming up with,
like, yeah,
wasn't just them, right? It was from the schools, it was from the
complacency.
teachers. Complacency, thank you. It's from their parents. And so, yes, when we talk about school systems, we have to talk about the families that the students are from. And that's probably going to be another podcast,
Yeah,
because that's part of this whole thing. The name of this podcast is Conscious Conversations. And so conscious conversations need to happen, not just in schools, and we're having conscious conversations with each one of these topics we're bringing up. And so we can point to the fact that, yes, this podcast is about schools, but yes, it does point to families. Yes, families do need help. Yes, families do need to do work. Yes, families do, and in society, And so I'm not ignoring that part of it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
there's lots too. This is a multifaceted situation
it's
if there was, if it's ever
multifaceted.
existed on the planet. I mean,
But it's like
yeah,
the change in one core system is going to change all of the systems, you
yeah.
know? I mean,
Well, yeah,
as we, like the last podcast or several podcasts ago, we talked about homeless in the prison system, which I don't want to go into a bunch because this is about
yeah,
the school, but it's like we change those systems. The system of
yeah.
homelessness gets changed. The way we address that gets changed. It expands, right? Consciousness expands. Okay, we're changing
All
the
these
way we're
social
treating the
issues get,
homeless.
yeah,
Then we're going to change the way, then that's going to change the way that we treat teachers and students and the box system that is the school system. And I'm not saying that there aren't some awesome people in it. There was one of my favorite schools last year was in a large school system here. Um, I loved his enthusiasm. The very first day that I subbed on that campus, he is the one on the announcer in the morning, and he's like charging the students,
oh,
and
the dances,
he
yeah,
was doing some kind of Martin Luther King quote, and it's like every
mhm,
day he did some kind of
yeah.
inspirational quote, and it was so funny because as a sub in different classrooms, different grades, you got to see the students who didn't think it was a big deal because they were like, well, this is just the principal and just the principal's talking about this. And I would go into some of the classes that I was subbing and I'm like, you guys know how special this is. Not every principal gets on the announcement
No,
and is so enthusiastic and is so inspirational and wants to light a fire under your ass.
start
Do you
rapping
know
into
how
it, yeah,
powerful
yeah,
this is? And then there's other principals I know in other schools, as I'm feeling another one, who are genuinely concerned about the students and are taking what they're
yeah.
given and doing their best. And
The
I
best they
greatly
can. They're in a
appreciate that.
system. They're stuck in a
Yeah.
system too. No matter how shit rolls uphill too. They're stuck in a system, and it's funny because this is one of them situations where everything, nothing can. These things, these social paradigm changing situations, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
they have to change through time because there's so
Yeah.
many different opinions on what one should do or what, and not everybody's looking at it from the same area. Everything's so compartmentalized in the way people are coming at this, right? Whether it's going to be beneficial for their kids to have homeschooling, to have a voucher system, to have this,
Right.
that, they should go this long, that long. Everything's so compartmentalized that it's hard to, so eventually over time, these things just have to kind of change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the way I get it is consciousness expanding over time. And, you know, you've been looking, what am I getting? Okay, I'm going to give you this example because I'm getting this right here. This is a little
yeah,
squishy ball of the earth, right? And you've always been
yeah,
looking at the earth from this perspective, and that's all you see. That's your whole reality. That's the way everything looks. It all looks just like that. And then one day you wake up, and for some reason, you start to see this part right here, and your whole perspective changes. And that is the shift that's going to happen. Well, not just the school system, but we're talking specifically about the school system and the system effects from
yeah.
this place, from this shifting of our perspective from the view. And what I
That was a
offer and what you're
beautiful
offering,
demonstration.
are what we're receiving as the most significant shifts. And to me, what I offer is the most significant shift is to know and to see teachers as sacred. Doesn't mean they're all awesome people. There's some of them are
Absolutely.
burned out, right?
Absolutely. I
But
can't hammer that
they're
home enough.
they're doing their best. And
God
from
damn, yeah. And they could be
from
doing something else, people. I mean, really, they could be doing something else for that degree. In fact, I would
yeah,
advise somebody close to me if they were going to go. I think don't go into something else. This is you go get yours. I mean, I'm just
right.
being honest. You know what I mean? Where we're at right now. By the way, that was a lovely demonstration you put on. For those of you on Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok listening, you'll just have to take my word for it. Carolyn did one hell of a job with a little round earth looking ball and really did a good job with it. She was on the ball with that ball. Let me tell you something
On the
right
ball
there.
with all
But
Larry,
teachers
Larry.
are
Yeah,
sacred. They're sacred.
they are. I mean, and what I was going to say is that what I keep getting is that shift has to change to seeing them as sacred, and then that energy then goes to the students.
They're raising the next generation of our fucking society, for crying out loud. I mean, people. There is.
They are.
Can you? I
They
can't think
are.
of any profession more important. I mean, really, overall, from an overall broad view of the planet, I can't think of any profession that's any more important at all. Not even close. You
Yeah.
know,
No,
a
I mean,
surgeon, if I need an emergency appendectomy at 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe a surgeon for me. But you know what? I mean, but really,
yeah. And what I'm asking within is
but they're getting paid.
how a person has the burning desire to change the system and how it's going to be done. And what I'm getting is that the charter schools that exist and the private schools that exist
Yeah,
are like the training ground for these
sure.
new teachers, because those schools, not all of them, but a lot of those schools are coming at things differently. Yeah, some
Yep.
of them have too many damn rules, but they're also coming at things differently.
Religion.
And they're teaching things differently. And okay, that's right. I told you about this yesterday, but I'm going to say this because I remember this. I told you this yesterday about the very first schools that I subbed in beginning of this year, remember? And
Yeah.
so this is a small system. A lot of these schools, they have like, one school, two schools in San Antonio, and one in DC, and one, they're just small systems.
These things are
This one,
privatized already, it sounds. Okay, so these things are
it's
kind of, in a sense, privatized already.
They are. This is small. So this is the
Yeah.
one that I told you about. That, I mean, one was the kids, the younger ones, but the adults, the older kids too. They're blasting tunes in the morning, and we're talking about before the sun's up. They're blasting
Right.
tunes and they're dancing around as these students get out of the cars of the parents when they're dropped off, and the students come in, right? But the other
Yep.
part that I told you about yesterday, that just like, I'm like, yeah, that's how it's done. That's how it's done. Is that all the students would meet? They're directed to the cafeteria because that's where they would get breakfast. All of
Yep.
them. That's where they all went. No classrooms were open. They all went to the cafeteria. And I don't know, at some point, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes before it was time to shift to homeroom, I don't know, which she's one of the administration, she would turn on the jam box, the speaker, and there was this part of the cafeteria that was cleared out, and they would dance. They would be dancing. They would have, circles of dancing and students dancing, kindergartners dancing, pre-K dancing, high schoolers dancing, all in this one space. And it was just really beautiful. I mean, I was like, this is how it's done. They would start the day after they had breakfast, or some of them would still be getting breakfast, but it's like they would start the day with the music, and they would
Yeah.
start the day with the community, and they would
And just
start
the
the day with
lifetime, yeah,
laughter. And
enthusiasm. Yeah.
I was like, this is how it's done. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Not this whole separate bullshit. They would gather. They would be together in this space, and not everybody was dancing, but they were all in the same room.
Right.
And I was like, because even if you're having a shitty day, I would come in, maybe not so great day, and you're watching them dance. And, unless you're somebody who's like, I don't know, a selfish asshole, I don't know, you're seeing kids dance and it lights you up.
Well,
You're
depending
looking
on
at
how
them having
early in the
fun.
morning it is.
What's that?
I might be that selfish asshole for about 20 minutes at about 6 o'clock in the morning, if that's how early it was. But that's another story.
It was early. No, it was 7:45. 7:30, 7:45. But, and not everybody was dancing. Not all the teachers were dancing. Some were just sitting. But it's like you're sitting there, you're with your students, you're watching these other students dance, you're watching them do
Oh,
the
they should have been
train,
there. Yeah.
the dance trains. You're watching, it's just like a dance floor.
Is that the one where the
And
principal? Is that the one where the principal was making the announcements and stuff like that? Is that the school you're talking about?
no, that was another school.
Oh,
But
because I was going to say he should have got on that mic and told those teachers, "Get up, come on, get on your feet, get on your feet. Hey, get your hands up, get your hands up. It's another great morning here at the school, and we're going to have a
that would be
great day
good.
every day." You can do that. I would do it just to fuck with people.
That would be good. Different schools are different. That school, the one you're talking about with that principal, more traditional in many ways. Yeah, more, but some things are really nice. This other one I'm talking about, kids were from a rougher part of the town,
Right.
and they were. So when it came to this openness in the day of dancing, a lot of them would go out there and dance because they
Sure.
knew that like this was it, you know, and
This
they
is
just let
it.
themselves be. They just let themselves enjoy it, and the teachers were out there dancing too, and you could see
Yeah.
the teachers that could dance and the teachers that couldn't, but they were still enjoying themselves, you know. And I really feel that is an ideal way to start the day, even if the children don't want to dance. You know, they got music. There it is. Even if they just want to sit, because yeah, there were some they weren't obviously not morning people, and they would just kind of be looking, and they'd be
Yeah,
doing like
don't be,
this.
I'll show you aside. And what we don't need in that situation though is those kids that don't want to just don't get out there and make it up. Oh, get up, dance, and all that bullshit. Like, oh, come on, be a part of be part of the fun and be part of the phony fun. When you do it like that, it's bullshit. But yeah, exactly. Let them just
No,
it's fun
no,
pace, relax, and yeah,
it was free. They could
yeah,
not join or join, right? Because there was a bunch of high
right.
school students, and they were
Yeah,
like, "We're not going to join." Yeah, that's okay. You don't have to
yeah,
join, you
cool,
know.
fuck,
But then there
man.
were others, and they were enjoying dancing with, you know, the kindergartners, and it was really beautiful. I loved it tremendously.
Oh yeah, I can see the look on your face. Was anybody out there though? Was anybody pulling a Billy Idol and dancing with themselves? Was anybody doing it? Yeah,
Yes,
a dancing with
there were some
myself.
teachers doing that, you know,
Yeah,
not all
yeah.
of them, but
People
yeah,
like
I mean,
Billy Idol.
I love that. That was awesome. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and over especially the last 2 years, I've had this intensive experience with all these school systems and the sheer variety of the way that they come at teaching. I mean, and the ones that need to close. I'm gonna say that.
You're gonna be the
Ones
inspector,
that,
Carolyn.
huh? What's that?
You're gonna be in this new society. You're gonna be the inspector. You're gonna get to go in and determine which ones we don't need. Yeah, we don't need to do it that way no more. We're not gonna do it that way. We're not gonna do it this way. We're gonna do it this way. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole little school system, which was one school here, private school. It
Uh
wasn't
huh.
private. It wasn't private. I don't know how it was. It was not private though. Not in that community. Um,
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I don't even need to ask my next question then.
nope, not gonna tell you because I could tell you the name, but that wouldn't be kind. So I'm just gonna
No, no,
say it's
no.
one
I
individual
was talking about
school.
the ethnicity and the demographics.
It's one little school. It was created or founded by a famous person, and
Oh,
it's a school
really?
that I'll never sub at again. I'll just say that because it's yeah, there's a lot of burned out people there. There's some really awesome people there, but there's a lot of burned out people there. Um,
Well, what?
and the students know that, and when students know that the teachers don't care,
Yeah,
then it's infectious because then they get this attitude of, well, if they don't care, I don't
yeah.
care, and it's
Oh, it's
like
really,
it's like a disease, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, it's
You
contagious,
know,
and they'll look for any chance when you're that age, man. Hell yeah, any chance like that, you'll prey on it. You know what I'm saying? If you get the impression they're not down with it, fuck it, you're not going to
it,
be either.
yeah, and I mean, you know, and I'm thinking of that one that I was in where the cell phone thing, and I ran against that, and then there
Uh-huh.
was one student through class,
Yeah,
and I was like, I mean, she didn't have an attitude. She just started putting her makeup on at the
yeah.
desk, and it took half a class for her to finish putting the makeup on. And I was kind of asked her to, you know, can you finish? Blah 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 blah. You know, some teachers would have been like, take them to the bathroom, or you know, whatever.
Yeah,
You
I
should have
would have
done that
been
before.
amazed.
But I wasn't sure what my wit was there as a sub with
Yep.
this group, and so you know, I went to get help, and that's one of those
Right.
things where the admin in the hall was just like,
The
just let
admin
her
in the
finish.
hall. I like
She'll
that. The ad,
she'll
you
be
keep
done
saying the admin in the hall. I'm getting the impression of this admin hanging around the hall. Do they hang around all
now.
classrooms long out there?
No, she was for the school. You know, that's what her and the others do. They're hall monitors, and they're adults. That they're like admin. They're yeah. She clearly didn't give a fuck. Yeah. You know,
Wow.
so
Well,
I let this student finish putting her makeup on, but I
uh-huh.
asked her politely to finish, you know, because she had work to do. I wanted to enforce it more, but if you don't have administration backing you up,
Yeah.
well, then
Fuck.
it's really difficult, right? Um,
Yeah, you're
you
going to be
have
hated by both sides then. I mean, yeah, then you're ass out if you don't have the administration's backing on something like that. You know what I mean? So you got to really be
you
careful. Sure.
depending on the age of the student, you know,
Yeah.
you got to connect with the intrinsic value of what of whatever you're teaching and the validity, the support of what it is for them, and that's what I usually reach for. You know, I'm usually not, although I'm a sub and I'm teaching what I need to teach. My
Yeah.
focus is not. It's not about the students learning this information. I teach it as well as possible. My point is to empower the student, whatever whatever the subject is, so that the
Right.
information, the knowledge is pointing back to them, and for the motivation to be pointed back to the student
Yeah.
for their own empowerment, for their own discipline, you know, for their own truth. Um,
How much
and yeah,
How much of this stuff in this day and age is really necessary to teach them? I understand the fundamentals, but I mean, let's get real. We're like the only westernized nation that doesn't teach the kids two languages when they first start going to school. They had to learn Spanish and English right away. I know you, but
yeah,
I know the blowback. I know the blowback in America already. The racist people go, well, those people ought to learn English when they come over to our country. Yeah, but okay, so even if you thought that though, why
right.
wouldn't you want to give your kid the opportunity to know it and learn another language at an age when it's easy to pick up a language and learn how to read and write in a fucking language versus
Right.
wait till high school where somebody like me is getting stoned every day at lunch and trying to come back and and take Spanish right after lunch. Not that that was me. I
So
was just saying for an example, people. Just for an example.
no, I hear you. Most of the schools I subbed in with it, because you want to enforce that at the younger grades where they're learning the
Yeah.
same word in two different languages at once. Most of the schools didn't do that, but there were some, you know, because I'm
Well,
remembering
most of you don't have to tell
kindergarten,
me you don't. If you saw some, you're yeah, I
kindergarten,
mean,
two
there's some that are
languages.
doing that now. I didn't know that they
Yeah,
would be. It's a charter
yeah,
school. I mean,
not all of them. Not no, not all of them, but I'm thinking of two in particular where uh, one was kindergarten and they were learning these words both in English and Spanish. I think that happened in at least more than one school in that system.
good.
And another one, completely different system. This is a private school, one of these really small ones. I think it exists here in a couple of their cities. Um, and I think I was with fourth grade, and they were, I think they were learning both languages, or they'd already learned it. Like it was part of that system. Um, so yeah, no, it's coming in. It's these things that we want to happen. They are happening slowly
Okay,
in the other schools. The only thing I'm going
encouraging.
to say is what I'm hearing something like they're still dependent on the higher system, so they still have to
Yeah,
conform to those
absolutely.
leaps and those, you know, so
Because
that
the administrators making the call even above them, right? They're having to bow to. They are removed from the system, so it doesn't help that those people are just complacent and happy with the system they got because it's not no extra work off their skin and they're not really connected completely with the kids at all. You know what I mean? The further up the chain you go, and these are the people that are making these rules and just enforcing them. And, it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing for them. Oh, let's just do it this way. This is the simplest way. This is the structure. This is how it's going to be. And, from 8:45 to 9 o'clock, we're going to,
yeah,
about this. Then right on cue, we're going to jump right into that. And then right on cue, we're going to do this. And then and it never fucking ends, man.
it's I had this thought last night about the souls that are refusing to see that change is needed, and you can be angry about their dogged stubbornness, but
Yeah.
my thoughts within me were this is just me, but I offer the compassion needed to see why they're scared to change,
Yeah.
because that change means that they have to change. That means that
Yeah.
structures have to change. They have to do things differently. They have to see things differently. They have to do work. And I got this thing about, you know, they're scared
Well,
and
sure
they
they
don't know
are. They
what's
don't want
come.
to. They're comfortable. They don't want to look. I don't. You know what? You can't. Yeah, you can't really blame them either.
Yeah,
They're in a position to where they got a good thing going, or at least as good as they think it could possibly be, right? And so they don't want to rock the boat. And it really takes. That's why it's hard with that rebel approach. One person's going to change the whole thing. It's really
right.
rough to. It's really rough to put somebody in that position to be that kind of James Dean rebel with the whole thing. You know what I mean? That by
Sure.
yourself, because
Yes.
you're gonna get weeded out, man. I mean,
The main thing I'm going to say is that I can speak from the public school system, from where my friend talks about it. And she's like, she was talking about, they're going to cut this and they're going to do this because
yeah.
funding is so bad. And how bad it's getting. Like her classroom was going to go up from 30 students to 35. And this was like, fuck, I'm sorry, I can't remember, fourth grade or sixth grade. And I was like, oh my God. Because I've taught classrooms of 30, and that's a lot of students, but you go up to 35, especially if you've got special needs in that classroom, you're at your wit's end. Even if you're an excellent teacher, it's hard to corral that many students because, you know, so this change that we're talking about, this change is coming soon. And I'm
Mhm.
praying that the systems that are being developed outside of the public school system, the school systems, like we're talking about the public and the charter and all those that are present now, that are just like growing, they're expanding like weeds, like they're, you know,
And we're
and
gonna have to just face the fact that there's gonna be some bad apples in there. It's all part of the change. It's where I've got to come to peace with the fact that some of them, if the greater good is for changing the whole paradigm, that's wonderful. And there's going to be some bad examples out there. You know what I mean? There's going to
there
be some
will,
trial and error, and it's going to happen. And I don't mean trial and error. There's going to be some agendas out there. It's just part of human nature, right? They're going to want people to learn the way they think it should be done. The way we want to teach our kids, the way we want to teach, the way we like the kids should. I resent parents who feel that way because of the fact that they're their kids should have some say in that because they're only kids for a few fucking years. That's it. Period.
right?
What you should get the hell get them out of there with minimal amount of damage done to them by your slighted way of seeing life. You know what I mean? Let them figure it out on their
Right.
own. Man. I mean, be there for guidance, but Christ, man,
That's why, to me, that the shaking up is happening right now is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
Like we're in the Palladian corridor right now, right? There's a lot of
yeah,
shaking up from this energy
yeah,
right now. And then the shaking up isn't going to end. I mean, it's just going to start
yeah.
shaking even more. So, yeah,
Oh, fuck, we
I
haven't
mean,
even gotten warmed up yet, girl. Shit, it hadn't even
yeah,
got warmed
we're,
up.
but I mean, the thing I'm getting is that these external systems of schools, the private and the charter, and I feel like some of these, though I haven't looked at the funding source of it, or the
Uh-huh.
not as much the funding, but the parents, what they have to pay. I got the feeling for some of them that it wasn't unreasonable. It was not something that was out of reach for the
Right.
average parent. They just didn't want to put them in that system for whatever reason. But
Sure.
I feel like the change to the public school system is going to come from the growth, and I'm hearing overgrowth, of all these private systems. There's
Yes,
there's
it's gonna
there's
revert back because you're right. It's gonna be that kicks what we want to work
choice.
in the first place into
People have
gear.
choice. Yes, and
Yeah,
so that more and more people have choice, and then maybe the pressure will be for the public school system to change, because
because of
that,
competitive reasons. Yeah, not
yeah,
necessarily for the right reasons, but the right reason, but not for the right reasons. But anyway, either way it has to get done. You
yeah,
know.
well, yeah, because my thoughts are, you know, that they look at this neighborhood and they see all these children and they don't know why these children are going to their school, and then they do a study or whatever and see that, oh, they're all going to this school over here and this school
Yeah.
over here, which is also like, I'm hearing low tuition, or it's maybe there's vouchers, but you're saying they're always connected to religious stuff, and my thoughts
Not
are
always. No, not always. No,
not
definitely not
always.
always.
Yeah.
Definitely not at all. But no.
That
That's my only concern. It's on the political forefront. What you hear though is it's from that crowd. Exactly. It isn't from these other
I meant,
alternative. Yeah. It isn't from the people we would like to be running the charter schools. Believe me, no.
so then I'm getting the compassion, you know, the shifting, because to me we're the Aquarian age, that we're just like, just got our feet just barely, we're just barely there, you know, that the
Right.
transformation from this age is going to come from compassion and how it
Mhm.
infiltrates all systems and all thought, and um that the focus would be less on, and this is just me because I'm going to speak this way, that's why I'm here,
Sure.
it would be less on I'm hearing, actually, this sounds weird, but I'm hearing it's less about the teaching of the student and more about the compassion offered to the student and to the
Yeah.
family, what can be offered to them from that system, and letting that lead.
Well, absolutely. It has to. We have to have that kind of a mentality going forward. That has to be at the forefront of it.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely, that has to be at the forefront
And
of
it,
it.
and it,
Yeah, definitely.
oh my God, I just reminded, okay, yes, thank you, thank you. All right, I was just reminded of my internship that I got from my bachelor's. Thank you. Um,
You're
I
welcome.
was I was in I subbed for Cities and Schools, which is social service. I guess it's a social service agency. I don't know. And their whole thing is that they bring the social services into the school system. In there,
Okay.
yeah, they were there. So I was one of the counselors that worked with the at-risk youth that families never made it above seventh grade, or I think it was
Right.
seventh grade. And I
I'm
had
sure in
I
Texas
had
you have a
like,
lot of that though, too, don't you guys? Because I heard kids
yeah,
used to leave school early to go to work in the oil wells and shit. I mean,
yeah.
it happens. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
I had like 10 students roughly, and
Yeah.
it was really powerful because as these families, so the school system was interacting directly with the family, and as these families needed different social services, then
Yeah.
I or others in the aspect of the school, which was Cities and Schools, that we could offer them that. It wasn't this external thing because it was already there in the school system. I can't believe I forgot about Cities and Schools. I loved Cities and Schools. It exists now,
Oh,
and there's also communities in schools. And so
wonderful.
these are shifts that are happening, um, that have been happening for 20 or 30 years. It's just these are small shifts, and the system is a big system. And we're still kind of there's been this place, this is consciousness, right, where we've been has been this place, and as consciousness expands, it's like this. And
Yeah.
so, you know, we're sampling ideas and offering ideas of how the system needs to change, and I keep connecting for some reason with the way they do it in Japan or something like that.
Except for the going 9 hours a day, we're good. Yeah, right. Except for
Except
the
for the going 9 hours a day. Yeah,
God.
but it's like, it's all these ways to come at the system, which has to change. Excuse me, frankly, and the curriculum has to change. Just like you were talking about the curriculum.
Oh,
How
big
much is this
time.
practical? I do hear you.
And I don't know the answer to that because, some of it, of all of it is needed. So, I mean, I don't want to not teach. There's some people that are homeschooling their kids that aren't even teaching their kids fucking math and shit. I mean,
it,
you got to get real because they're going to need that in life, a little, basic
you
arithmetic.
need,
Shit.
yeah,
So,
you do. But
I mean,
it's just other
so
stuff.
we got
It's
to make
like,
sure parents are doing that are homeschooling their kids. Oh, I don't get in my business. Bullshit, man. You better be teaching your kid a few basics or fuck, dude.
you got
We're
it.
going to
Yeah,
need
the
their
basics
business
are,
quick.
they're needed. There's a lot of filler that's been put in there that people accept as like, I'm thinking of the history, and I'm thinking of
Mhm.
um, math
Yeah,
is,
just to fill up
I mean,
time.
math
Yep.
is basic, but it's like I've subbed for some teachers who they want their students to do the math, and they want the math to be done
Yeah.
in the way they taught them, and they don't want them to use scrap paper, and they don't
Yeah.
want them to come up with the number in any other way than what they've taught them. And
Oh,
to
of course.
me, why? That's just me. I'm
Well,
kind
no,
of
no,
like,
if you anybody logically to think it, I mean, I can understand if it was for a specific fucking job where it was going to require them to do it just exactly that way in order to get the result of getting paid or some shit, but not to learn.
I thought
No,
it was
not in that
controlling. My
scenario.
my thoughts were, well,
Yeah.
why not? Why couldn't the students use scrap paper? I couldn't come up.
No,
I couldn't do certain math problems without scrap paper.
no.
And that's just, to me, some teachers, just like people in the general public, are very controlling. And
Yeah, I don't
you know,
understand. I really don't understand that either still. And I know it, yet it's there as good as anybody does, but yet I still don't understand that mentality. But I guess it's just, different strokes for different folks, right?
I don't, yeah. And then I've been with some students, I mean, some teachers, where I'm like, I'm honored to sub with them. I'm honored to
Yeah.
that
Take their class.
that they're in the school system, that they're having the effect, and the children, and the students know that this adult is very concerned about them, is paying attention to
Right.
patterns, and then what am I getting? Thank you. Cities and schools. The belief system is about, that it just takes one overly concerned, overly involved adult in the child's life, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a teacher, and it doesn't
No.
even have to be a parent. It has to be an adult that's in their life all the time, that is like, they're immersed in that child. They are very concerned. They see those
Mhm.
patterns. They're
Yeah.
watching, and the child
Right.
knows, and they know that there's this, I'm hearing, safety net. And
Yeah.
it's just that one adult that can make the difference,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. You hear stories
And
about it all the time. That one special, yeah,
yeah, it's
those
huge.
tend to be golden mentors. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
it's
100%.
huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. Um, I'm just sitting here, I'm like, have we talked about everything?
Well,
um,
I think we have, and I mean, do they? I'm curious though. In today's such a charged environment that we're in, are current events taught in these high schools? Do they? I mean, I don't know that it would be even that productive now because kids know with the internet and things of that nature. And plus with the as politically diverse and charged as it is, I don't know that it would even be. Tell you the truth, I'm not even sure it'd be that productive to
uh,
do.
it depends on the school system.
Yeah.
I've subbed in some classes where um, they they have like a morning minute or something like that, and they're watching, and they're watching like Google Classroom, or they're on Google Classroom, and they're
Okay.
watching like but then they're watching Google News, Google
Mhm.
News,
Okay.
which, I mean, some people will be like, that's okay. I'm like, um,
And it beats the hell out of Fox News, but that's okay.
or they're watching CNN, and
Right.
I'm like,
Some bullshit. Yeah.
yeah, but they don't, and
Yeah.
they'll be watching it for 10 minutes or whatever, that thing that they offer to the classroom. There are a lot more resources for teachers
Sure.
now, on like this is the neat thing. See, I haven't told you that this is so cool. Pre-K and K, teachers can jump on YouTube, and
Yeah.
there are some people out there, and I've looked up their history, their education. These are teachers that were like retired teachers, and then all of a sudden they come up with these like little logos and slogans and little dancing things to
Yeah.
math, to teaching
Oh, cool.
English, to teaching, and it gets the kids moving, and it's music, and it's not that the
Right.
kids are on this stuff all the time. One, it's a brain break for the kids, which is huge, and the other is, it's a brain break for the teacher too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
It breaks up the monotony too. Actually, yeah. What a wonderful thing.
It is. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
really awesome. And it's a way, yeah, I'm hearing within me in the with the merry-go-round curriculum as it is, and for many of the schools, it's like a pause in the maze for the teachers and the students, and it's fun, and you can see that there are shifts happening. There's there was one group we watched last week when I subbed at a third grade, fourth grade, and I swear it was like two guys. They seemed like stoners. They weren't stoners, but they seemed like stoners. And it was like, hey, these guys are brilliant. They came up with these little jumping things where they're just like making these, little cute little rhymes, and and it's a brain break, and then it's just like two adults that just, maybe ADHD adults who just created these videos, and they were just really brilliant and really silly, and the kids loved them, and like, okay, light flashing here and making this sound, and these exist now. They didn't exist before, so there's like more resources that teachers can pull on, provided the schools themselves offer these resources. Not all of them do. You there, Larry?
And I'm back. I was gone forever, man.
Um, yeah, but yeah, those are there. Those are something that teachers pull on now, and it's nice that that's there. As something that's not the same thing. It's ultimately it's going to be a tremendous change, and you know the only thing I can see, and I know this is what I'm seeing right now, and this now all that can
Uh-huh.
change, but I'm seeing like private schools, charter schools, and I'm seeing them like really begin to grow, and the public school system is compacted by the amount of choice that parents
Yeah,
have, till the
sure.
public school system has to react, has to
Yes,
change. And it
absolutely.
also might be
Yeah,
that teachers like my friend and others
yeah.
fed up, and a lot of them are leaving the school system, but maybe
Going in.
something could come from external that could give them the voice and the true power, the
Yeah,
true grounding, like legislation
committees
is
and
what I'm
shit like
hearing,
that. Yeah, yeah.
for them to
Committees and
plow
research
through
groups.
and change the bullshit from the inside out, which is also possible. The
Where
need,
they'll have to be listened to. Yeah, where they'll have to be listened to because they're not on the under the thumb of an administrator worried
they're
about
not, yeah,
retaliation.
and
Because
you
people
know,
are sick and shit like that. They'll retaliate. I've never understood that kind of mentality. If somebody's got a problem with you, and they do some work, you got it out for them. I don't understand the revenge kind of mentality.
I don't,
It's kind of a
yeah,
sickness that a lot of people have still in America, though.
that's where they,
Wow. Each their own.
that's where they, to me, that's where they have, and I'm going to be blunt, I'm going to get it. That's where they have low self-esteem, and they think they're some target, and they're really not feeling very strong about themselves. And so they've already got that pressure within themselves. And so,
Yet it's
um,
an ego too to think that they would be that right. It's kind of a double-edged sword because it's an ego
yep.
too that they think that they would be that important where anybody would give a fuck who they were or what they even thought. I mean,
Yeah.
really. I mean, nobody gives a shit.
It's, I know, I hear you. I hear you. Everybody's feeling the pressure, and the ones that have done the work, and I'm hearing the ones with no judgment on others, but I'm hearing stellar hearts. That's what I'm hearing in my head right now. The ones that have
Yeah.
stellar hearts, the ones that have done the work, the ones that are, maybe they're the old souls. I'm not sure how you could separate that out right now for some reason, but it's like
Yeah.
they're holding these spaces. I've met them in the
Right.
school. They're holding these spaces. They're, they're doing their best with what is there. They know change is needed. Some of them, what I'm getting is they're not here for the change. They're here to support and bring light to what exists now. There's others that are going to come in and they're bringing change, I
It's
get
in
that one
waves.
of
Yeah,
the,
it's a wave. It's a 2 or 3 wave tiered process, don't you think?
yes, it's a wave. It's a wave. And the more I connect with it, the more I like the fact of legislation changing from the top about schools. You know, not, I mean, I'm getting with enemy, not enforced. It's something that is collectively chosen, and then it's dispersed as dispersed how each state, maybe not even each state, more than that, maybe each community, where they
Yeah.
have freedom to create as they choose. For some reason, it popped in my head a minute to tell you that some of these schools that I've subbed in, some of these private schools, some of these
Yeah.
charter, they don't, some of them build new buildings for these things. Some of them repurpose old schools, ancient,
Yeah.
like one of them, the energy of the school itself, the structure, it's old. It's solid, but it is old, you know, and they just are
Have you heard
reusing.
of the Alamo? You got the Alamo there. Why don't they refurbish the Alamo, Carolyn?
There you go. It's, you
Oh,
know, and then others, they're building these new buildings, but that is about the money to build those structures, you know.
yeah,
One of
sure,
them that I
absolutely.
subbed in recently was okay, I was told it was another school, but when you're there, I think I told you this already, you're in the lunchroom, which is a converted synagogue.
Oh God,
Um,
okay.
you
Huh.
know, yeah, it's kind of neat. And you
Interesting,
know,
yeah.
you're in the classroom, and when I was first there, I was looking around and I'm like, was this an apartment complex? The way it's set up,
You
the way
couldn't
the
figure it
rooms
out,
are,
yeah.
you know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Apparently it was a school, but I really feel like the school originally had
Before
these
that,
converted from from what do you call those, studio apartments, right?
okay,
Um,
yeah.
because of the way it's set up, which is kind of neat. But
Right,
it's
yeah.
like, and it's like, so these apartments apparently were close to this church, which is also
Uh-huh.
connected to this school, you know, which is connected to this other building. And then they got these trailers. And so they kind of made do with what was there, which was,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's really cool. And so
Yeah.
it's like these things are already there. They don't have to build new stuff, is what I'm feeling. It's there. This is for the physical structure, the internal structure. Well, that's what this whole podcast is about.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, exactly. The physical can be, I mean, I'd rather not have them build a bunch of new shit right away. I mean, there's other
yeah,
structures that can be used at first, but eventually, that'll lead into that, the new design, state of the art, multidimensional buildings that, come in and out of consciousness.
the shifts, we, you and I, and those listening, you know, I hope they know these shifts are coming in the next few years. I don't know what they're going to be, but the seeds are already there. You can
For
feel
sure.
it when you're in the schools. You're just like, for some of them, you're like, this shit can't continue. You got to be kidding me. You're teaching them the same shit. Oh my God.
Yeah,
You know,
something's gonna give with it. Something will give with it at some point. I mean, later rather than sooner, probably, unfortunately, but it will.
I feel like, yeah, I'm getting some teachers will make their choices. You know, maybe where they leave public schools and they go into private or charter, and the public school system has will have a gap of teachers until they can begin to value those teachers. I'm not trying to
Well,
create that or project that, but I just feel like that's one of those things can happen because
in
teachers do have
consulting,
choice.
right? And some teachers might want to, it may open up consulting opportunities to consult these new schools. You know what I mean? These teachers that have taught for years and decades, in big
They
time
have
public
choice.
schools.
Yeah, a lot of them think they don't have
Yeah.
choice, and they do have choice. They have to. There are changes that they have to get used to, but um, depending on the charter school or private school that you're in, I mean, my observation of it as a sub, I saw some things, because some I subbed in longer than others, and some teachers are given a lot more freedom than other schools. Depends on the school.
Yeah.
Freedom for how they want to teach.
Yeah.
They, you know, they know what needs to be taught. They know their curriculum, but they can teach it any way they want.
As
And
long as there's not a lot of complaining, right? You kind of, yeah, exactly. They kind of let do their own thing as long as it's not, they don't have to really hear any blowback or anything. Yeah.
yeah, and then I'm just going to mention this because somebody is popping in my head. All right, I'll mention it. When I was in middle school, I was in what was called a lottery school. I got in because my older brother went there and my older sister went there back in Charlotte, and it was. I guess I'm grateful that I had the taste of that school for 2 or 3 years, and all the professors were PhDs, and it's kind of neat when you have professors who have that much knowledge, then they have that much freedom to teach their curriculum. And I remember my older sister was in a history class, but the class was not taught from the traditional perspective. The class was taught from the perspective of the natives, the whole class. Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole class of what they went through.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
great. That's good. Well, it sounds too
Oh,
logical to me.
it was amazing,
Yeah,
and then each class was like very different. I mean, you were in like, English or you're in, but it was the teacher taught however they wanted to teach that subject. And that
yeah.
would be my hope. Not that, you, every teacher can't be a PhD. But it's the knowledge and the faith
Fuck
that the
no, not
teacher
unless you
has.
start paying some money.
Yeah. And what
Only
they
a
want to
stupid ass would
teach.
do it now.
Well, that's the thing is that with all respect to the teachers already out there, but there are some out there, they went to school, they learn their stuff, they're
Yep.
out there and they're teaching and they haven't explored. And so they have their particular information that they're there to teach. And I've
Yeah,
worked
and
with
that's
some of
it.
them and they don't
Doctors can be the same way. Yep,
and they
absolutely.
don't deviate from that information and they don't deviate from the and I met some of them, they're happy, they're beautiful, they're
Well,
loving,
really,
but they're like cogs, right? They're
they're not.
beautiful
Yeah,
cogs.
but they're not. Yeah, but to defend them for a second, they're not really paid enough to. I know that it's not
Yeah, and
about
they're
them,
not.
but my
They're right.
God,
They're not.
I
They're
mean,
not. It's because as we talk about it, we've talked about what they're being taught, and so you have to, what they're being taught is you know there's these publishing companies and these publishing companies who have always been, I guess they're probably contracted right through the school system, and
yeah.
they're teaching the same stuff, and
Oh, yeah. Okay. Aha, it makes sense now. Okay. Yeah. I
it's a
can't think of any
trickle of
names off the
stuff,
top of my
right?
head, but
But
yeah.
I will say
Okay.
one of the larger school systems that I've subbed in, see, this is the weird thing. I was in the class, fourth grade,
Yeah.
I think, and this particular period they'd had history.
Yeah.
Their history book was not a regular history book. It was taught from the what is the correct ethnic perspective, right?
Yeah. Not
And
not some white pilgrim that came over here and gave everybody a blanket with disease and
I
shit
took
wrapped in it.
picture.
Right.
I took
I
pictures
mean, yeah.
of the front of the book. I flipped
Fucking
picture,
pilgrim.
and the children in the class had no idea. They were like, "This is our history," and I was like, "Do you know
Yeah.
how incredible this is? Do you know how wonderful this is?" Because it was like, and
Yeah.
I was like, my heart was like leaping. I'm like, "Oh my God, this exists!
Yeah, it's so
It
refreshing. I bet it was
exists."
really refreshing. It would have been for me. It would have been really nice to kind of see, that instead of hearing this white bullshit about how, you
No
know,
revisionist history. It was
yeah,
it was like,
fucking white
yeah,
people.
and it was talking about the black cowboys, which are the original cowboys, right?
Absolutely.
And I was like, it exists. It exists. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just to give you hope that these shifts, they
Well, yeah,
really
sure.
are happening. They
Yeah, and
are
thankfully you're
happening.
becoming the minority too.
What's that?
This is kind of on a side note. Thank God too, and it's all kind of coincides with everything as we get more diverse as a culture. If you thank God, and I don't care, I'll say this: thank God we're becoming, hopefully, and that can't happen soon enough where white people are the minority in this country because that way it'll force these different the right way to teach the right history, to it should never be forgotten what happened. The only people that want to forget
Absolutely.
about what happened are people that have a problem with being called out for it. you know
Absolutely.
yeah,
The other thing I would offer is compassion, compassion
yeah,
expanding.
Yeah.
And then all perspectives are offered, not just the mainstream, right? All perspectives,
Right.
because all perspectives are sought, because the full conversation is sought,
Yep.
not
Yep.
just an isolated one,
Right.
fully. Yes, I
Absolutely.
completely
Everybody's got
agree.
to be at the dinner table. Everybody's got to be at the dinner table. Seriously, everybody's got to sit down with it and really be
Right.
on board with it. And yeah, it's there's no reason for anybody to get defensive or anything. I mean, it is what it is. It happened. I mean, we can make sure it doesn't happen again. But you can't
It
ignore that
won't.
it did happen. You can't stop thinking about it and call it the critical race theory or any of this other crap because this shit happened, man. And it doesn't. It was not a long
Yep.
time ago. A couple hundred years ago, even is nothing. It's a blink of an eye. It was nothing. That shit
And
will live within their DNA and their innate forever. So we've got to come to some understanding, right?
well, to me, anytime you ever point a finger at somebody else, it points back to you, because we aren't separate. And
Nope. Yeah.
it,
Right.
and though I agree, in the physical 3D level, there are still certain definite disparities. Yes, yes, they definitely exist. But
Right.
as we expand in consciousness, then the physical becomes less significant, because
Yeah.
consciousness isn't about consciousness changes the physical from the within, from internal. And so
Absolutely.
everybody's internal is very different. Frankly, I would even offer everybody's internal, everybody's within is completely different, a completely different, like, universe, completely
Yeah,
different everything.
absolutely
And
multidimensional, faceted, yet existing right by each other,
completely.
but in two different worlds. Yeah.
And so as we expand consciousness, we're connecting with the multidimensionality, and that one right there eliminates differences, disparity, and everything, because again, you have no desire to point fingers at anybody, because they point back to you. and
Yeah.
and you don't have a desire to point fingers, not even because they point back to you. That's a given. You don't want to point fingers because your soul has done all this work to be here now,
Right.
and
Why blow it at the
been
last
there and
minute?
done that. And that reality and that perspective and that focus is what I'm hearing is done, because we already know as a collective. It's the reason why I receive, we are here, all this shit's happening, which is intense shit, but it's also beautiful shit, because there's expansion of consciousness. And
Yep.
so the reason that I've gotten, and I've said before, that we're here, that I receive, is because everything that can be known is known. And it's known because we at higher levels have explored, and we have been there and done that, because we have looked at these things from a place of no compassion. We have looked at these places, we've gone to these systems, we've gone into these creations, we've gone into these timelines, we've gone into these focuses of the mind and the mental, and the heart was not part of that conversation. And so that was explored. And when we've made creations and we've created
Here
ages
comes here comes your
without
catchphrase.
compassion, then we've had the outcome of those ages without compassion, and the outcome of that, and what that's done to us collectively. And now we're at a place where the reparations are happening, is what I'm hearing. And all of this and the coming back together, because
Yeah.
we were separated. And now I'm seeing a visual of the fact, when you talk about, and I don't really choose to point about them or they or whatever. When you
Yeah.
talk about our DNA was disabled, well, now our DNA is all being put back into
Right.
its normal number, its divine alignment, because we
We're
are becoming
reawakening that
whole.
conversation of the heart.
Yes, yes, and and I got that, Larry. And so, and so my mission is to be a reawakener of the conversation of the heart. And for me,
Absolutely.
that's the conversation within the sacred mind, sacred heart, body, vehicle, voice of the soul. And when we talk about the soul, that's multidimensionality. And we exist not in just this moment where we're speaking, Larry, but we exist in all moments, right? So does everybody
Right.
listening, as they choose and as they allow, and as each soul connects with the divine truth that all happens in this moment of now. Then frankly, what
Well,
I'm getting, and you know this, is all these things that we're talking about that have happened that have been horrible and disgusting and
Yeah.
whatever are all transformed because
Well,
the
they
energy
are, and
goes
look how
out.
far we've come. Look on a positive note, though, too. Look how far we have come, though. Look at how far the vibrations raised over the. I mean, we've talked about this numerous times on the show and in private about what this frequency
Right?
was like in the '80s, the '70s, the '60s, the differences between them,
Oh
and,
my
and,
God.
and totally, totally,
Huge.
and
And how
it's
how it felt,
amazing.
right?
Oh God, terribly, yeah, terribly
I
so.
I every time now when I go, it's funny, I say go, I don't even know if it's a go, right? It's connect. The words connect. Connect with those energies, which are those times. My first thought is to feel the energy then, and it's always like, no, I'm good. I don't
Yeah,
want to feel
yeah.
that energy. It's like a it's
No.
like a it's like a sucking in energy.
Well,
Um,
it was what it was, I mean, it was what it was. It sucked, but thank God the kids you were mentioning, some of your kids being into the '80s kind of pop culture music. Thank good God they get to just enjoy the kind of neat things to glean from that era, and that they didn't have to live in the frequency of it. You know what I mean? But they get to enjoy the benefits of it, right? That what was good from it. They can reminisce and things like that.
they're
At a time they weren't here, and
they're amazing. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
I never looked at the '80s the way they do because it has a different meaning to me. But
Me
the younger
too.
ones look at the '80s and they see it in a certain way, and I'm like,
Sure.
whoa, I never thought about that. It was a very expansive time. I mean, yeah, there was corporate BS, but there was also this whole individual artistic stuff
Yeah,
happening,
yeah.
and
Oh, sure, sure. It was a good with that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's one thing to live through it. Not just like what we think back on decades before we were born, maybe something that looked cool from the '60s or
right.
whatever. Right, right. But it was it is what it is. We all pay it forward and move forward and move on. But I mean, the vibration and the energy is picked up. We were talking about showing some grace to everybody involved in this. I think I brought up on the last show, Carolyn, was it the last one or the one before I was telling you about that babysitter that told me that I could die from listening to that music in my head, the Beatles and the Pink Floyd in my head at 8 years old, she knew a little girl
Yeah,
that died, right?
I know.
That they were like that, then
The
it isn't like that.
backmasking.
You would not even find a hardcore. I don't think you'd find too many hardcore churches now that would say that kind of thing. I mean, we moved past that. I mean, that was a big deal that rock and roll is from the devil and
Yeah,
yeah, but that you don't hear that anymore. At least if people think that they don't, thank God they don't really talk about it much. Or maybe I don't live in the South, so I wouldn't know. I can't speak for the folk down there, but um, I just don't. You just don't hear it as much here, right? I mean, you would hear it even up here back then. That it was. I don't know what it was though. Any kind of new thing that they probably said that about the radio. God, there's voices coming out of that thing. What are these kids? They're listening to that. There's people talking to them out of that box. Oh, I mean, well,
oh, the light bulb. Oh my God, look at that.
you,
It's showing
no
those
shit,
things.
no
We don't
shit.
want to look at
I'm
those
telling
things.
you,
Turn that light bulb off.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I mean, the car, man, you're gonna die going that fast in a car, 30 miles an hour. I mean, yeah, so we move past that and we move on and move forward and whatever the next medium is after, the internet, that comes after the internet, whether it's quantum computing or like the Palladians talk about, whatever it may be, more of an interaction based kind of a situation where
Telepathy.
yeah,
Telepathy.
telepathy, where you're connected with people around the planet that have the same kind of things you have in common. I'm not just talking about for relationship wise. I'm talking about like for business ventures and stuff that'll help the planet. That'll help, for inventions. Maybe they'll think of one part of an invention. Somebody else will come up with another part of it. And you know what I mean? This is how ideas get rolling, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it really is it's a wonderful world that we're stepping into. I just like to play that guy and the old crusty guy on the front lawn. I'm not really that way, um, but really, I mean, it's amazing. It just is. It just the transformation we've seen since then on. It's one thing if you ever
Right.
lived before the internet, and it's one thing afterward. That was kind of a evolution or an ascension we went through in the mind. And I don't mean some kid who was when they were younger, they can remember when it was dial up or some bullshit at the very infancy of it. But I'm talking about without a period at all, not even thought of on the radar. You know what I mean? Where anything happened to you was within your own little tiny community. There was nothing. There was no outlet to unless you had a pen pal from Bora Bora or war torn Angola or wherever the hell.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And being able to know what's happening in other parts of the world.
Yeah, except for what you see on the nightly news at 6 o'clock. You know where it's three subjects covered. You know, in
And
the
the other
'80s,
thing
it was
I'm
crack and AIDS and what was going on in Ireland with that thing in Northern Ireland. You know, for years it was just those three things every night. You know,
right,
and now
right.
it's
The
there's
thing
so much variety.
the thing I'm getting is, you know, if you're very sensitive like me and others, then, you know, being able to clearly pinpoint what is the global event that is making me feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? Oh,
Yeah,
that just happened in that country. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I could see why I feel like crying. I could see why I feel so angry. I could, you know,
yep,
um, and being able to more easily pinpoint that, and then being
yeah,
able to more easily offer our service,
yeah.
however we choose to express that
Hmm.
to that to those people, to those
Yeah,
souls,
yeah. There's a personal thing. I mean, there's a more of a personal kind of a dichotomy going on right there.
right? It's
Then- because it might as well have been on another planet before. You know what I mean?
the separation, yeah, and the box and the that's the way it is. Blah 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 blah. You know, Walter Cronkite.
Now back to
Yeah,
your
no,
game.
I hear you. You know, it's a different rabbit hole, but yes, there is more choice for sure that people can get their news from, and the information is coming from more than one source, and
Discernment, and people will say, "Well, that's not always a good thing." Well, yeah, it's discernment. It doesn't matter whether you're being told 100% lie or
discernment
100% truth.
discernment's
Discernment. Yeah,
always a good thing, because
yeah,
discernment is
yep,
your ability to
absolutely.
filter out what isn't serving to your highest good via your heart, and that is always a good thing.
It's your
Judgment
best
is not
friend,
always a
actually.
good
Yeah,
thing.
it's one of your best friends. You have to have it no matter what.
Yes, it's vital. It's a vital tool. it's
Yeah,
it's
man.
I have videos out there about discernment, that it's necessary. It's not judgment. You know, judgment is the filtering. It's the filtering, right? It's
Yeah,
the You're not seeing
hearing what you
much at
think you
all
want
because
to hear. Yeah,
you're stuck in those belief systems and you're locked in thought patterns. And
yep.
but discernment is when you've done some work, and you
Uh,
let your heart tell you, and you can clearly know from what you receive. Clearly
yeah.
you can see intent, black and white intent.
Yeah,
And
when you have no judgment or limited judgment, you know what it gives you the ability to do? It gives you the ability to actually judge. What I mean by that, though, is because you know all innate possibilities. You're a human being. You know that they're you and you're them, and you understand. It
right,
doesn't mean necessarily you think that it's right what they did, but you understand. Hey, this is what gonna happen. What can happen? You don't get
right,
caught in the mode of, well, I never would have, or I always do, and I
right,
never would have. Well, nobody never's or always is hardly. I mean, so get off it with that.
right.
Yeah,
That
you
that
know.
place of compassion to me, and empathy, you know, where you can,
Empathy with empathy, not sympathy. Empathy, where
no
you can
empathy.
put yourself in
Yeah,
their position. Right, right.
where
Sympathy. Well, you
you're
didn't
like,
feel sympathy, but I wanted to tell
you're
the
not in
difference.
that
Yeah,
high and mighty place where you're being like,
right.
well, I wouldn't have done it like that, because you're in that place where you're like,
Oh, I feel so
well,
sorry
shit.
for them, Doc.
I've
What
been
a
in
tragedy. Yeah,
situations. Yeah, I've been in situations like
yeah.
that, and though it would be really ideal to act that way, you're
Sure, because
actually
you want a
doing
quick
this
fix too.
way.
You want the
Yeah,
problem to go away too, not only for them, but you don't want to have to deal. You know, a person doesn't want to have to deal with it, so they want that problem solved. They want to, it's their motivation for wanting it solved, though. You know, is it that they
yeah,
just want to see the other people stop suffering, or do they want to just be done hearing about it? You know what I mean?
right. You know, or
Empathy versus sympathy.
do they want to end the problem? You know,
Yep. Or
in the
put a
first
band-aid
place,
on it, right? Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Right, and you could see it by everything. That's again your discernment, you know, and then your observation of what's happening, and that observation isn't from looking at others. It's from how you choose to take in the information and how much You.
And how
There they
you
go. They did it.
they did it again. It's about that time. Yeah. I bet you thought you were gone more than you weren't gone a split second.
Wow, they're doing that. Yeah, we're right there. Jeez, I see that. Okay, fine. Yeah. So
Hey, Carolyn, what can they buy you? Yeah.
it's like clockwork.
Just
20
like it.
minutes before,
Absolutely.
15 minutes before,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah,
shut
they've
us up.
seen enough. Yeah, we're not going to let you finish this last batter off. We're coming in. We're bringing in the bullpen here. Yeah,
They're like
yeah,
this. They're like, do you see the time? Do you know? Click.
yeah. Fuck you, coach. I got one more out to get. Get the hell away from me. Yeah. Wow, all of a sudden the air just got
No, I'm for
great
me,
passion. Great passion
it's
from you today.
for me, my yeah, just my main thing, and this is just me, and I know it's very simplistic, but I don't know that this my thoughts are divine things are very simple.
Yeah,
Um,
there are,
you
aren't
know
they?
that the title of this podcast to me is the key focus. And as you keep the key focus of teachers being sacred and students being sacred, or you can reverse that, students are sacred and teachers are sacred.
Yep,
You make that
both.
the center and that the focus, and then you let the changes come from that focus out. That will bring beautiful things. And there's changes coming from all directions. I'm not
That
saying they're not. I'm just
teacher-student bond,
offering
and yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's the target. That's the intent. That's the focus. And if anybody's confused or lost about the system, I offer that as you make that the key focus, then
Yeah,
everything can ripple out from that beautiful intent and bring uh,
yeah.
epiphanies and enlightenment and shifts and different choices to transform the system. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and look at it from other people's point of view. Do you and I hope this has died up. You still got a lot of the "not my kid could have done it." It's not my kid. My kid wasn't the one involved. I mean, dude, give me a fucking break. My kids were the good ones, and I would always accuse them first. It wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'd be like on their ass. What were you doing there? Why were you there? Who were you talking to? What? I mean, well, I wasn't gonna be for as bad of a dad as I might have been. I wasn't gonna be that motherfucker though that thought that it was mine that were innocent all the time or ever really at all ever, and usually they were, but I was never I even if they were, I'd make a point to look like I wasn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean straight up though, seriously. But a lot of people, oh, they're after my kid, they're fucking with him in school, it's their fault. I mean, there's people that I've heard even in this century talk like that though. They were out to get him.
That's their work. That's that
I mean,
I offer. That's
yeah,
that
we could,
person's work.
yeah,
That
yep,
parent's work. Because the parent is a parent of a child, but the parent is also an adult in the society.
yep,
And the change is coming for all systems, you know.
yeah,
Oh, what am I hearing? I'm hearing something about especially the system in which we treat ourselves, and we've
yep,
allowed ourselves to be treated, and
yep.
how we
And how we treat ourselves, a lot of us too. Yeah, exactly.
address the truth within ourselves.
Yep. Yep. And how to learn to love ourselves, not out of ego or not out of this double-edged sword of low self-esteem, but yet ego at the same time, more of a balanced of just hey, okay, I deserve to be, I deserve what I would think anybody else deserves, right? But sometimes when you don't
Right.
think very highly of yourself, you tend to have those kind of thoughts about others if you don't think too highly of yourself, right?
Very
So
much.
it's about learning to love because we are all one at the end of the day. We're all from the same creation. We are
Yep.
all the same fucking creation, just manifested over and over and over again endlessly. So
I offer
yeah,
that we are all from the same breath of God.
well, no question about it.
Yeah.
No question. How could it even be any other way? It's not even possible that it could be any other
It's
way.
yeah, The change is here. I'm not even going to say the changes are coming. The change is here, and it's. I'm getting something about all the light codes, all the energy that's pouring on the planet now. And I know there are groups of people that don't recognize that, but to me, the intensity is not going to go away. And so at some point,
no. It's just getting warmed
validity
up.
is going to be given because it's going to be forced, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like these light codes, this information, these downloads are going to integrate, and the universe wants this integration to be done sooner than later, and it would benefit us to do that. But it does start with the individual, and
The divine is simple. The divine is so simple, but isn't it something how the divine is so simple, right? But yet it's just taken till now where we finally started to understand what those catchphrases mean, like the golden rule and like we're all God and like if you can't love yourself, you can't love others. They were used in such a regurgitated, not really knowing what the fuck a person was talking about. And now you can feel it in people when they talk like that. It doesn't sound like they're sitting in a 1980s new age movie with their, sitting cross-legged on the floor, 25 or 6 to 4, chanting Om, and they're regurgitating. So people are full of these feelings now of this, right? They embody this when they talk. You can feel that they truly mean it more and more, right? And that's where the frequency is raised throughout the generations, throughout this.
I'm getting this visual within me as you talk about it of layers of illusion have been stripped, and when we were taught that stuff before, there were so many layers of illusion that it was very difficult to connect with what was true and what was real. And now many of those layers, I even choose to say all of those layers of illusion have been removed, and reality is subjective. So for some groups, they're going to say absolutely yes, and others are going to be like, nope, not yet. And that's an individual frequency thing. But as these layers of illusion have been removed, then the depths of what these phrases mean and these states of being is what I'm hearing mean is actually penetrating through the individual and the energetic bodies, not that go into the physical body, but first they begin in the outer energetic bodies, and the body of the planet, I'm hearing. And that is definitely happening because this penetrating, this integration, more and more.
It's going to get multidimensional real quick. It's going to get multidimensional real quick for a while. As far as our living with each other and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's and people are coming to it in their own way.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful soul brother that I was telling him last week about the intensity, and I mentioned the X flare or whatever, and he didn't realize the validity of that. He didn't connect with that, and so I told him, I'm like, just research that for yourself. See how. And I thought within myself, I'm like, so he researches it. Is space weather going to show people the actual effects that has on the body?
I know that'd be my problem. I'd have to probably. I know I couldn't bite my tongue like Carolyn because of that. That's exactly what would be playing in the back of my mind too. Is what's he going to find out online from like you said, the SpaceX? Was he going to go find that that's supposed to raise his consciousness?
And he's actually, his consciousness is definitely expanding. Yes, definitely. It's just some things have not moved into validity yet. He has to figure that out for himself. But I offer that every soul is at this space now where they really are changing. They really are shifting. And that
discernment.
To me, and I've said this in earlier podcasts. What I get is that every soul is changing. Every single soul is being affected. Everyone, but the way that they display that is very individual, just like any individual would be. And some give validity to the solar flares and the all the other things, and some are
And
just
there's
like,
levels of it, right? There's some of us that think it's a little bit, some a lot, some none at all, sometimes, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of different levels, right, of where you're going to find it at. And it's funny you mentioned, is he going to go over to SpaceX and look? Well, I can just hear it now. People, oh, that's a pretty enlightened place, SpaceX. They're talking about, for their level, they may think that it's talking about that, and it may very well be in it. So it's all relevant, but you know what I mean? I mean, but I hear what you were saying. You're like, I want to make sure that he understands the point I'm trying to make from my standpoint.
and it also matters. I'm getting the amount of ego that the soul is still connected to, and
Yeah,
it's not that ego has to be eliminated. We all need ego, but
sure.
it has to be
I'll drink
balanced.
that.
It has to be balanced, so that it is not the ruling voice. It is working with the higher self, working with the higher voice,
Just
and,
enough to give you that edge. Yeah, just enough to have that edge to
yeah,
maintain. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it
yeah.
it's because that's the thing with those that are still fighting very hard, is that they are allowing ego, which is this voice that is really not them. They think it's them. They've only known that it's got to be them, right? That what other choice is there? And they don't know there's other choice. However, they're seeing ripples around them from other people shifting, and I'm getting that they
It's got
are
examples. Yeah, you can't tell them, right. They're gonna have to learn it from examples, like watching it. That's why it'd be better off not to. I'm only griping on the show, but you can't come at people like that though, because if you expect it to work, I mean, you can, but it's not gonna. I mean, you're just defeating your own purpose, really.
yeah,
'Cause,
they're going to come at it when they're ready.
right,
However, the intensity,
is gonna force the issue a lot bit. Yeah.
yeah, and I keep seeing, as I'm telling you, intensity. I really am getting like this energy that is like pushing on the individual in a higher way, divine way.
I
It's like,
really feel like it's going to pick up, and I'm not one of these people that get caught up into predicting shit and time frames and time. So, but I mean, it's when I say
yeah,
soon. I mean, so many people use that term. It's soon, soon. Like that. Well, it is. It's happening now. I mean,
yep,
hey, I won't make any predictions, John. But here, talk to me in 5 years. You know what I
yep.
mean? And that's not much time from now, especially with the way time is sped up. I mean, so talk to me in 5 years, and we'll
Actually,
reevaluate that thought.
my thoughts within myself just now are, if we did this podcast in the winter, it would be different. We would offer some of the same things, but we would focus on some things more, and we would probably focus on other
Mm-hmm.
things less, because by the winter of this year, 2025, I mean, we're going to be in a different space. And
Well, it'll be almost 2026 by the time winter comes here this year. Yeah, I mean, we'll be like
yeah,
days
but
away.
I'm getting that some souls will be more moving into more solidity with their missions, and that means that
Later
those
this
that are
year.
here to change those systems will be putting themselves in place.
Yeah.
They'll be putting themselves in place.
Um,
The ripples will be next year, but the positioning is this year. And yeah, but
Socially, I think this though, I do really feel like in the next, say, just 5 years, I think socially we're going to see more of a change in 5 years than we've probably seen in, oh, I don't know how, I can't say that because we've come such a long way, but I don't know, in 20 before it, I would say 50, but that's not,
yeah,
that's a
well,
stretch. Some
yeah,
ways,
because
yes, some ways no with that.
the technology drop that's already present and is
Yeah.
only going to
Yeah.
like expand is going to force. I'm hearing force consciousness.
Sure.
And as we were talking about the school system, hey, that's going to change the school system too, right? And that'll be interesting. I don't know how, but I'm getting
As
change.
long as you don't get all the AI nutters out there, they're all paranoid about, anything that's going to help us move ahead. Oh, that AI. I thankfully I'm hearing less and less of that, which is nice. People are
Yes.
realizing, it's all about anything's got a yin and yang, right? And whatever,
I,
anything
I,
can be
I
used for
mean,
bad purposes, but you can't, we can't stop, systems that would
no,
put the
I,
country ahead 100 years in a decade. And for certain things, there's medical things that, that we need to address.
mhm,
And yeah, it's not going to go away. We know this. Whether you agree with it, I don't. I agree with
yeah.
it. You don't. I do. It's not going away.
The AI for me is there's part of me that fights it. I admit that. That's the Lemurian part of me. But AI for me, the way I always receive it is AI is an extension of us. And
That's
as we
how we were
always hold
created. Fuck, man.
that
Everything's
focus,
AI. Everything was created.
yeah,
Yeah.
as we always hold that focus, like when you
Yep.
say AI, you see it visually as an extension of us. And so that
Yep.
means that that energy would be an energy of exploration,
Yeah.
compassion, intelligence,
And God,
not
amen.
just intelligence for intelligence sake, because that's not a happy place necessarily,
No,
but
definitely not. Definitely
it's
not. Like just like with the body, I'm all for it. I'm all for it replacing every bone in your body you've got. But when it comes to messing around inside that brain of yours, no, I'm not. Unless it's to help with an Alzheimer's, something like that. But I'm not used. I'm not down with it chipping the brain part. But as far as getting a new knee, new hips, new, you know what I mean, shit like that. It's like putting new wheels on a car. Yeah, man.
yeah, yeah, my
Especially
main
when it's
thing
coming out of
is that
consciousness.
we always keep in focus that AI is an extension of us. It's not this external thing. It is,
No,
even if it
fuck
moves
no.
into that space, it moves into that space because of our consciousness.
Yeah, we
Um,
created it. I mean, a robot didn't create a robot. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right.
it can now
And
only
that
because we created one that could maybe, but
it'll always be that way.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you don't want it to be. I mean, hey, I'm okay with somebody going to live in a world where they can manifest their subservient to robots and all that. But I just don't choose to engage in that kind of a thought. You know what I mean? If it isn't,
I,
if I don't like what it's doing, I don't use it. If I do, I do. It's really not that difficult. I don't look for some hidden agenda behind it. I'm not looking around the boogeyman around the corner, yet I'm not a fucking idiot. I mean, if he's there, wait, I'm ready for him.
yeah. Well, I mean, as we're all creator beings, when you look for the hidden agenda, you'll find the hidden agenda.
Yeah.
But if you just have awareness of that and you
Yep.
use your discernment and you choose not to put your full attention on that, you just have awareness of that, well, then
Yeah,
you're
that's all
not
you
going
need.
to perpetuate that reality as there's ringing in my ear as I'm telling you this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I know it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
I'm, can you think, I can't, I'm good.
I'm good. You've
um,
been really passive. You've been great. Yeah, sorry to get off on a little soapbox today, but yeah, it makes me smooth because there is not a more. I mean, all these issues are important, granted, but this is like
right,
this is multi foreverness we're talking about here. Is
right.
teaching those that come along after us and how we treat them, and I mean, you can't just treat it like you're going to the glue factory, to get I don't know, a pair of garments from 1976 in the Lawrence Welk show that's a bad now, glued back together. I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're all an extension. Everything is an extension of us that we have created, right? I
Yes.
mean, we don't have to live in that world where they're going to all turn into Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. And well, and if that happens, if we get one out of line, we'll take the computer out. And in that non-violent society, we'll get violent one time, and we'll pop a cap in a computer that starts acting like an idiot. Okay? Yeah,
I respect that. Within myself, I give that no energy. None of my
yeah,
energy goes
right.
into that focus. But I respect that.
Well, I try not to either. This is the information this is what I get from people, though.
Yeah.
I'm not a third party. This is what I
People,
hear.
my I could probably do a whole podcast on it, but I mean, my thing is for people to be very aware of
Yeah,
where they put their energy. Consciously aware of where they put their energy. So they're choosing
yeah,
things deliberately and intentionally, and that they choose what they want and what they desire, rather than allowing their
yeah,
thoughts
right.
to spin out into creations that they didn't want, because I offer that from the moment you have that thought, it is created in the etheric, and that's where the inner work comes in. And I feel within me strongly that this entire generation that we're in now is going to be a generation of souls that are going to be those that choose to ascend, that choose a higher life are all going to be doing that inner work. There's going to be there's massive shifting on all levels to address those blockages, to address those belief systems, and to I'm hearing pulverize. I don't know what we're pulverizing. Pulverizing untruths, pulverizing through illusion, so that the pristineness, the purity, the clarity, what is real, not the projected and assumed BS that we've lived in for eons of time, is what goes forward. And those souls that I'm hearing have not given themselves space to exist. I pray that they give themselves space to exist
Absolutely. They'll get there.
in
They'll get there.
realities, in realities that they want to be in with their entire being, that they choose with their whole heart, that they want, not perpetuated control and illusion and
it'll bring us closer in so many ways. It'll start to erase that doubt, because we always think, well, I'm just like that person, but I don't know what they're completely thinking inside. It's making us closer in so many ways. So I mean, this awakening that we're having, and the next generation's coming along. It's just the mentality is really forcing everybody to kind of just really be in tune with each other and understand. Instead of the sympathy, it's the empathy,
Yeah, it's happening on all levels, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's penetrating. Yeah.
That's a good word for it.
It's happening.
It's happened. It's going down, sister. It's going down. With that being said, is there, going once, going twice? Is there anything else you would like to? Is there anything else on your mind, or that you would like to tell the audience before you let them know where in the wonderful world of social media they can find Carolyn Linear Roberts? No relation to Bob, by the way. They're gonna be like, who the fuck is that? I don't even think Carolyn knows who that is, so don't worry.
No, but no, I feel like from where we are right now and what we're receiving in this moment and now, we've offered all we can for the highest good to plant seeds for any that are called. As our focus this time has been on the school system, and I'm grateful for any way in which this serves in this now or any future now.
Absolutely.
So yes, I'm Carolyn Linear Roberts. I am a reawakener of the conversation of the heart, and that is my mission. And my full intent is empowering each individual to point back the answers and the truth to themselves. And my goal is to do that with every podcast, with any subject. And so I offer soul sessions, which are private conversations that I have with you, where I can connect, or I do connect with the Akash within me, which is called the Library of the Heart. And though I value and respect my peers who connect with what you are and who you are in that particular timeline, my focus and my goal is to connect you with how you felt and the emotions that you were experiencing in that timeline. Because to me, what I offer is that energy, that energetic stamp is a stamp, and it goes forward from that timeline into now, into your DNA is what I'm hearing, and through your bloodline and through your ancestors. And so I am here to help you, support you as you transform and transition that focus and that way of being, of living in fear, to transform that into living via curiosity, to living via seeking higher intelligence in all things. And higher intelligence to me always includes compassion, and starts with compassion for self. And so I offer soul sessions. I can be reached on my Facebook page, Carolyn Linear Roberts. You can message me, and if you do, please DM me, maybe even in this chat, and tell me
Yeah.
you're doing that. And then on my Facebook page, Allowing the Light, that is my mission business because I span both realities. And I'm on Facebook as Allowing the Light, and on Instagram as Allowing the Light, and on YouTube as Allowing the Light. Am I missing something? Oh, and on
Well,
YouTube,
sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah, you're on
on
YouTube. You got two YouTube channels. You got the one that's kind of, we still got to get those taped off there and put on your new
yeah,
one.
that's
Yeah.
Carolyn. Yeah, that's Carolyn and Roberts. On and then I offer my light language infused blessing picks, which are blank blessing picks cards, which have stunning images that have been created from me, through me, from this reality or
Mhm.
other realities,
They're
all
gorgeous.
offered to inform and inspire those that are called to them. And those are available on my Etsy store, which is Allowing the Light, and on Etsy, which is a labyrinth. If you search under party supplies and then you put in Allowing the Light, I will be on that first page, probably within the first 4 of what you find. That's me, because Etsy's a labyrinth.
Yep.
Okay, so um, yes, I am so grateful for anything that was served to any soul that resonates. And the beautiful thing is, if you don't resonate, then that's about elimination, and you'll find the truth one way or the other for you.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for your time and attention. And I send blessings and beauty. Thank you.
Absolutely, Carolyn Lanier Roberts, great show as always. Awesome. So Carolyn has her picks, and I also have electric. Well, they're not really electric. I have air guitars for sale. If you'd like to buy an air guitar, you can pick it out in any color you would like. Carolyn. I'm just messing with Carolyn right now. No, I'll tell that story another time. Okay, you can
You
find
made
me
me have
at
to do an air guitar.
yeah, air guitars. Yeah, any color you want. Yeah, any. Yeah, so you can find me every goddamn place on social media. Okay, I'm everywhere except probably SunCloud and LinkedIn. Everywhere. So I'm gonna make it real easy. Everywhere that I've ever been, done, or will ever be in the wonderful world of social media, unless I haven't yet, and otherwise it's not there yet, whatever that could be. You can find me on Facebook at the page Rockin' Larry Lawkins social media outlets. It's ROCKEN, not IN, EN, and Lawkin, of course, my last name, LOCKN. Rockin' Larry Lawkins social media outlets, or I think you can just type in the secondary name of the page to the Larry Locking Network. It'll show you every YouTube channel, the 5 of them I have, by the way. The every Facebook group I ever created years ago at the behest of the Pleiadians and Arcturians, pages, all that shit is on there. It'll you can scroll down, you'll find out where I am on Lemonade. I'm the Lemonadian Pleiadian on there, Blue Sky, I'm Blue Pleiadian Blue Orbs. Tumblr, I'm the tumbling orbs, and X, I'm the exorbed or some shit. Anyway, so that's where you can find me, Rockin' Larry Lockin' social media outlets, and I really appreciate your time, and we hope to see you back here next Thursday. And for my co-host Carolyn Lanier Roberts in San Antonio, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, this is yours truly, Rockin' Larry Lockin', with a big cosmic dating game kiss for everybody out there. Mwah, and da. Okay, Carolyn, I think that's a wrap. All right, good. Woo, yeah, woo, Ric Flair, woo. Okay, he's from Ric Flair's hometown, by the way. Okay.